Jared pumps that left leg, takes the snap back, looking, great protection, throws, end zone. It is caught. Wow. Are you kidding me? Whoa. Sam Laporta, what a grab! Right over the defender's head. Oh my goodness.
Welcome to week 7 of the NFL season. This is the Twentyman Huddle podcast. I am Tim Twentyman, and it's a big game on Monday Night Football, ABC, so I thought no better than to have the Channel 7 ABC sports director, Brad Galli, on. Brad, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Pump in the applause, please.
Yes.
Woo,
yes.
Guys, thanks. Thank you so much. Live studio, you guys are great. Thank you so much. No, thanks for having me on, and thanks for letting me invite myself on. I think I said to you in training camp how much fun I had with you doing this last year, and what a resource you have become over these last years, man, to be for the Lions team that's rolling and for people to come here every week, get a player chat. And so to be honest with you, man, I'm pumped. It's a big one for Monday night.
We just talk Lions. It's just two guys like we're in a basement.
It's what everybody does in this
town. Yes,
we're not.
Everybody does. My X account is a great example of that. All right, let's start with this. Trivia with Twentyman, week 7. Since the start of 2023, name me the 2 quarterbacks who have led the NFL in passing yards and passing touchdowns.
In 23. I think you're asking me because, well, I want to go to Goff and Josh Allen, but I'm going to guess that Baker Mayfield might be in there too.
Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff. And that, to me, obviously they're not on the field together, but that's such a huge matchup in this game. You know, Jared on the year is number 1 in passing touchdowns, number 2 in passer rating. Mayfield's 3rd in passing touchdowns, top 5 in rating. I mean, these two guys are playing at an MVP level. How fun are matchups like this when you got two guys at the quarterback position that are playing as well as they are?
After watching Lions games, or before we watch these Lions games, I think the number one highlight that's been most exciting week to week has been watching what Baker Mayfield's done. Not just what Tampa's done, what Baker Mayfield has been doing. And we've listened, to the assistant coaches and Dan Campbell at the beginning of the week talk about the respect that this coaching staff and that everybody in this building has for Baker Mayfield. Not just what he's done in the past, but especially what he's doing this year. Mike Evans has been out. Chris Godwin's been out. What he's done with Emeka Egbuka, he is a special brand of a winning quarterback. And then on the flip side of it, people across the NFL get bored by what Jared Goff does. But if you're bored by excellence, man, you just don't get it. What he does is difficult. And I think we're starting to unlock a little bit more publicly what he does, right? Not just checks at the lines, but almost creating plays and talking to Dan and with John Morton what he's doing. So I think watching Jared take yet another step forward this year, seeing Baker take another step forward this year, puts us on a collision course for what's going to be a great game. You know,
and it's two teams that are familiar with each other, too. I mean, this will be the 4th matchup in the last 2 years. Lions have a 2-1 advantage. Obviously, the playoff win in 2023, but that was a gutsy performance, that Tampa Bay came on the road and beat them last year. And so when two teams know each other, as what can be the difference? What do you see as maybe the biggest matchup or difference in this game Monday night for you?
I think those questions almost answer themselves, right? Like, you as a competitor don't like being basically posterized. And Baker last year was the leading rusher in this game for Tampa. Now, he only had, I think, 35 yards, but he posterized the Lions linebackers a couple times, and that's an amazing unit. But on his way to leading Tampa to a win. So I think the biggest matchup is, it's annoying, right? We always say, but like trying to contain a mobile quarterback. Is he as mobile as some of the other guys they've faced or will face? You could argue yes, you could argue no, but I think the pride factor from knowing each other, from those linebackers having those moments like Derek Barnes did in the playoffs, that rivalry almost of linebackers against Baker and seeing what he can do kind of just outside of that pocket, that's the matchup I think I'll be watching the most because he won it week 2 here last year.
And I think a couple of interesting storylines with both teams. Obviously, the Lions secondary is a little banged up. They're without Terry Arnold, DJ Reed, Avonte Maddox. We'll have to see. Brian Branch is going to be suspended for this game. But then you look at the flip side of it, and yes, they might get Mike Evans back. He's returned to practice. He hasn't played since week 3, but Egbuka doesn't look good after suffering a hamstring injury. No Chris Godwin, no Bucky Irving. To me, it's not a matter of if injury is going to happen. It's when, right, Brad?
Yeah.
And so I think the best teams always have those depth players that are able to step up in moments and make key plays. And so to me, what is this kind of depth at Tampa Bay's wide receiver look like versus the depth at Detroit's secondary. Like, who finds, which backup receiver, backup corner finds that one play on a big third down or that key takeaway or that big touchdown down the field, get behind the defense to make the difference? I just can't help but think back that, like, maybe this game is a little bit of depth is going to play a factor.
Because everyone freaks out here right now in this town and across our state of, oh my gosh, all the injuries in the secondary, for good reason, right?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't look great against Kansas City. There were some miscues and some questionable penalties. But in Tampa, they're also saying, oh my gosh, what are we going to do without all of our weapons out there against Detroit's defense? And so in football, yeah, like the next man up cliche, I think will rear its head this week. I think it's a good point by you. And getting Alim McNeill back is so huge. And I'm not trying to jump our conversation here, but
Stop reading my.
sorry,
Here we go.
I've always been really good at looking at my
Like,
friends' homework. Having him there, right? Like what they've had to do on the flip side of what they had to do last year, right? Like they had a healthy secondary down the stretch. They had a depleted D-line, and now we're seeing the story flip a little bit and getting McNeill back and seeing the emergence of a few of those pieces around and just unleashing Aidan Hutchinson. Like, he's had really good games against this Tampa front, which is not a lot of things that a lot of pass rushers can say. So I think a McNeill will help in that too. But the depth, man, I think is a big point, and it's something to watch.
So huge to have Alim next to Hutch, too. I mean, it's such a dynamic because as good as Williams and Reeder have been. I mean, those are more kind of run stuffers, right? First and second down guys, terrific against the run, give you a little something against the pass. But we talk about Alim McNeill. That was 3.5 sacks last year. He's had 5 in a season. He had 45 rushes. The Lions were 4th in the NFL last year in pressures from the internal component of their defensive line. And so he just adds that element. And now you can, with some of the stunts and some of the different things that you can do. I mean, you know this from your time at Brother Rice, when you can get on the edge and you get some guys inside that can give you some juice too. It just changes the whole dynamic, doesn't it?
I went back and watched a little bit of the Dallas game, the first half this week, when Aidan got hurt last year, and we needed some clips to run to say, hey, McNeill's coming back. Oh my gosh, the way that he was ripping through that Cowboys line, 2 sacks in the first half, he was a beast. But how do you stop Alim McNeill and Aidan Hutchinson? You have to make choices. You have to basically defer a few options on your offense. You have to chip. You have to really plan for both of those guys, and then that frees up the rookie. That frees up so much and helps, again, your secondary. To have McNeill back, it's one or the other, man. Aidan or him that's going to come up and make a play. And I know that Aidan, we've talked to how many weeks in a row here, like, you've really stepped up your game. I think you asked him last week, like, is it possible, man? Can you unlock another level? And he looked at you nicely, but also like, yeah, man, that's why I do this. And now with Alim next to him, I think that's that next level that we know he's capable of doing and that he is too. And again, like, McNeill's a beast. Sean Dean Hamilton, right? The linebackers coach said what he does at 300 pounds, grown men should not be able to do. Yeah. And he does it.
And I had Al-Qadim Muhammad on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. Let's not forget what he's contributed to on the other side too. So not only do you have, Alim and Hutch and what you're going to do, double team there, but Al-Qadim Muhammad's got 4.5 sacks in 6 games. He's contributed on the other side too. And now the depth that you have at defensive tackle, I mean, you've got probably 4 legit starters around this league at defensive tackle. You can run guys in. So look, we talked about the secondary, right? And look, they're hurting and they're going to need guys to step up. But boy, the best way to step up, in my opinion, is for that front 7 to take over. Yeah. Suffocate them. Don't let them have time. Give those guys in the back end an extra half second or second, to guard somebody. And you do that, and I think you're going to be in pretty good shape.
Let's give a shout out to Al-Qadim Muhammad, the younger, his son. And let's try to get him a sideline pass. And let me tell you why. The game against Minnesota in Week 18, we had scheduled an interview post-game in the event of a Lions win, and the Lions' great media relations staff said, you're getting Al-Qadim Muhammad after his big performance. He brings him up, and his son's standing there with him, who's super tall, right? Oh, yeah. And he goes, can my son come in the end? I'm like, bring him in, man. This is a huge deal. You guys just won the division in a crazy scenario. So he talks with us. This is my dad. I'm so proud of him. I'm standing there trying to cry, trying to hold back the tears.
He's his best hype man.
It is. So guess what happens? The next time I see them, in Baltimore on the sidelines at Monday Night Football. Al-Qadim Muhammad had a big game, and I saw his son. I go, your dad's going to have another big one tonight. He goes, man, from your mouth to God's ears, let's see it happen. So let's have it happen.
We need to get him.
Sideline passes.
Sideline passes, at least on Monday.
Come on. Let's make it happen.
I love it. One maybe you look back at last week, one trend that maybe raises a few eyebrows. 4 wins for Detroit. They've scored at least 34 points, right? Well, obviously, right, Tim? They score 34 points, they're probably going to win. 17-13 in their 2 losses. Is it, Brad? Is it easy to say that this team goes as the offense goes? Because you don't want to say that because they've played a lot of complimentary football this year. But in those 2 losses, it really, to me, when I look at the game, it's been more on the offense than it's been on the defenses. Is it as easy to say that Detroit's got to score points and they've got to be really good offensively to win this game Monday?
What did Dan say to us at the beginning of the week against Kansas City? What the Chiefs do so well, and maybe better than anybody in football over really the last decade, is they win. Now, what does that mean? They just find a way.
Yeah.
And it sounds, again, such a simple answer, but they did it against the Lions. And he said at halftime of that game, we're 3 plays away from really blowing this thing open. And what were those things? An Amon-Ra St. Brown drop on 4th down. Never happens.
Never.
A punt. They punted in the 4th quarter, too. Like, when was the last time this team coming back punted in the 4th quarter? There were so many. Even Scotty Montgomery said it, wrapping up this week, looking back. He goes, we just didn't make those explosive plays in the critical moments.
Yeah.
And for fans on the outside that may go, no, there's something deeper, there's something bigger. Sometimes you just lose one-on-one battles. You lose a moment, and that's the complete difference of a drive. It's the difference in a game. And those stacked up for this team against Kansas City. Now, that's a long answer. Here's my one thing of maybe what hurt them. Maybe Goff didn't have as much time. Some of those drives started with a Jahmyr Gibbs loss of 3 yards. Some of them ended with a 3rd down sack.
Yeah.
Taylor Decker.
Yeah.
It's if you don't have your left tackle in there that's been your guy for a decade, you're going to notice. And all respect to Manu, all respect to Dan Skipper for making his season debut and stepping in and playing well. Not having Taylor Decker against the Kansas City Chiefs, I think, hurt this team a lot.
Good news on that front. Taylor Decker didn't practice Wednesday, but Dan Campbell said he's expected back at practice Thursday. That's a good sign that maybe he's trending toward money, knowing he's got a week off afterward with the bye, too. So, obviously, that would be huge, not just in the pass game, too, but the run game, too. Taylor doesn't get enough credit for what he does on the left side there.
And they've said it, right? They want to get David Montgomery back more involved. He took over in Cincinnati, but it's really skewed a little bit more towards Jahmyr Gibbs, which I don't think is a huge surprise. He's younger. He's one of the best backs in the league, but I think for powered football, what they want to do and controlling the clock, getting David Montgomery more carries, I think will be critical, and having Decker on the field will help that.
Running away from Vita Vea might be a good idea, too. All right, what do you guys have planned before the game? Channel 7 on Monday.
You know what? Getting out with the people, I think, is a huge part of what we're going to do because, there were years, Tim, right, where getting one Monday night football game would be a big deal. And so when our team sees on the schedule that we got, oh my gosh, we get to see a Monday night football game on the road in Baltimore and bring that coverage to everybody back in Detroit. And we went out there, we were live. We had Joe Buck with us, sat down with Dan Campbell, sat down with Amon-Ra St. Brown, hearing what he's doing in the community. We're going to do that and amplify it even more. We're going to have our anchors out in the middle of Brush Street talking with the people, anchoring our coverage from out there. Alex Crescenti and I are going to be inside. We've got some special guests we're working on lining up with us to join us for the pregame coverage.
Teaser. It's like he's a professional at this.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, we haven't locked everything in yet, so that's as teasy as I'm about to get. But ESPN's always so good to us, and they're bringing their whole crew. Scott Van Pelt announced last Monday night they're bringing the countdown crew through.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we always try to connect
7 o'clock start, which
7 o'clock start. Bedtime, baby. Come on. So we're going to do it up big, and I think it's a big way for our station and for everybody involved in our team, behind the scenes. Our producer, Tony, rocks it. Our camera guys, Chad and Brandon, you see here all the time. It's a great way for us to really put on display what our team loves to do in showing off this team in these uniforms, by the way.
Well, it'll be fun. The Blacks. I love the Blacks.
Woo, and these helmets.
They're so tight. They are so tight. Everyone will obviously be watching the lead up into that game, which is, look, the 2 best teams in the NFC going after it in Week 6 in a game that could have playoff implications. Who knows down the line. So it's a big one. You guys will have it all covered at Channel 7. Appreciate you taking the time.
No big deal.
Thanks,
I did pick in the NFC Championship before the year, Tampa against Detroit, with Detroit winning and beating Kansas City in the Super Bowl. So I'm just saying,
Wow.
Tim.
Okay.
We'll check back in.
It's all lining up.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Appreciate you anytime. Welcome back to the Twentyman Huddle podcast. Very happy to welcome in Tate Ratledge, rookie guard. How you doing? Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So this is probably, old hat for you, because in college, I thought this was so unique when I came to you, approached you, asked you if you wanted to be on the podcast. You're like, Yeah, sure. I used to have a podcast. It was called Mullets on the Mic. Who did you do it with? Was it with Brett Thorson in college? And then how did that start?
It started off as a podcast called Real Talk.
Okay.
It was with a guy I played with. He asked me to do it, and it kind of just started as like, okay, let's do this, whatever. Then it's turned out something I actually enjoyed doing, and then it kind of grew traction, and then we kind of separated from that company doing that, whatever. And then me and Brett started Mullets on the Mic, which was completely different podcast from the first one we had. And it did pretty well. It just kind of, once I moved on, I was like, I don't want to be that rookie with a podcast, you know what I'm saying? So we kind of separated from that. But no, it was a good time. We both had mullets. His was not as good as mine, but yeah, we both had them. So that was a pretty clever nickname, we thought.
For sure.
So it did pretty well.
Is it something maybe past your rookie year? Because, once you're in the league, St. Brown's got one. A lot of different players do it. Is it something that you would like to maybe get back to? And if so, who would be the ideal podcast partner in that locker room or offensive line room?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. No, it's definitely something I want to get into. I think media is kind of what I want to do when I'm done playing football. I feel like I feel like I have a good personality, and it's like, I don't know, I guess I have the look that attracts people, not in that way, but you know what I'm saying. It's interesting. But no, the offensive line room, I'd probably say I feel like Graham would be really 100%. Interesting to have a podcast with. 100%. I think you could go down some crazy rabbit holes of conversations.
Way
with
crazy.
So I think that'd be hilarious.
You embrace the hair, obviously, with the mullets on the mic. We just joked about it. Have you found it interesting that it's kind of taken on this own thing on social media? Sometimes there's some dedicated things, some dedicated sites to it, and things like that. I mean, how much do you love it and embrace it?
It started off as a complete joke. I did it during COVID. My dad did it in the front yard, and it was the worst haircut I've ever had in my life. And I was like, all right, we're just going to see where it goes. It's COVID. I'm not seeing anybody right now. Like, nobody has to see me, so it doesn't really matter that much. And then I got to college. They had a 6-month awkward phase at least. Like, it was bad. And I just kind of wrote it out, whatever, and then got into college, kind of kept it, and then it started actually like gaining traction and became really my brand almost in college.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just stuck with it, and it's just become my thing now.
Dude, Tate, I think there's a financial opportunity here.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving forward.
Yeah, I saw Hutch on a Head and Shoulders commercial. I was like, dang, I need him to hook me up with them.
There you go. See, I love the business savvy of so young. Well, let's get to the football part of it a little bit. Week 6, you've now had 6 weeks under your belt. It seems like you're really settling in nicely, aren't you?
Trying to. Of course, there's learning curves every week. I mean, you can watch that game last week. I had plenty of them against Chris Jones. I mean, a great player, and, of course, you see those every week. Not quite to that stature, but you see good players every week, and, of course, there's going to be learning curves week in and week out, and I think it's, to me, just how fast can I learn from that and not let it happen again.
Yeah. And how much did week 1, because obviously it was well done, just some of the misassignments, it wasn't just you, it was across that offensive line. Was that almost a wake-up call for that room? Can you look back at that and be like, okay, that was maybe a positive for me and for this room moving forward, because we know we've got to take care of the little details and some of the things, the communications, that's the thing. It's not like you guys were getting beat physically. It was just some of the mental things, and how quickly did you guys move on?
So for me, it was definitely a reality check. It was, okay, maybe I don't know this offense like I think I know this offense. Under pressure, crowd noise, how well do I know this offense to be able to process things and see what we're doing without being necessarily to hear what Graham's saying. So for me, it was, okay, maybe I don't know this as well as I need to. So kind of diving back in that playbook and like core knowing it where we're working to without Graham having to tell me kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and then the kills and everything, but it was a reality check for me, definitely. And then I think the offensive line room, there was definitely a that wasn't good enough attitude in the offensive line room, and quick to improve it.
And the leader of that offensive line room, Hank Fraley, just how much of a benefit has it been to have a guy like that who played for a long time, who's considered one of the best offensive line coaches in the league, to have him as your mentor? How big has that been stepping into this league?
I mean, it's awesome. I learned so much about football day in and day out with him, and technique and little things like this, what I can do to help myself in this situation, that situation. So I think it's, with him being the leader of that offensive line room, I mean, you see how much respect these guys have for him. So that shows me, before I even got here and knew much about him, that he's doing something right for these guys to respect him like that. So coming in here and actually seeing it for myself, he's a player's coach. I mean, the guys love him. I love him. I mean, he does a great job.
How much easier has it been to adjust the NFL playing between Graham and Penei Sewell?
It's made it a lot easier. I'm not going to name names, but I've talked to some of the guys that I've played with in the past, and talking about their rookie years, and they've all told me how lucky I am to have those two by my side. So definitely with Panay, it means like our double teams, I think they have a chance to be successful even if I don't necessarily fit it right, because I know he's coming full speed and has a lot of power behind him.
Yeah.
And then Graham's going to get me on the right page no matter what, so he does a really good job at that. So I think playing next to them has made life a lot easier for me.
It's important, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it's important to realize for a young player, sometimes it's not just the team, but it's the players around them and the situation as well, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. I mean, another one of my buddies called me and they're like, you should be grateful. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, I was like, I am, but like, what do you mean? They're like, the situation you're in, the people you're playing with, they were like, you just need to be grateful for that. And I was like, and it kind of put me in perspective looking at some of my friends around the league who maybe didn't have such a great first year or whatever, and then they grew eventually. And then kind of seeing the situation I'm stepping into as a rookie and next to the guys I'm playing with in the room, I mean, I think it's awesome opportunity.
Let's talk about Tampa Bay a little bit. You mentioned Chris Jones, obviously a dynamic player in his own right. Vita Vea is another one that you're going to see this week. Just what you see on film from him, and then what you see just overall from this Tampa defense. To me, it looks like an aggressive kind of attacking defense. What do you see on tape? What do you have to worry about?
Vita Vea, I mean, watching film, he's one of the most powerful humans I've ever seen. And obviously I haven't really seen it yet. I'm seeing it on film. So seeing it on film is impressive, what he does to interior offensive linemen, the problems he gives them in the run game, pass game. He is a big difference maker in the game just by himself. And, of course, they have great players around them. And to their defense, they, like you said, attack style, they bring a lot of pressure. They're going to pressure. They're going to make people get the ball out fast. So they do a good job disguising things, trying to get people to do something that they want them to do to bring something else. So they do a good job of everything, I think. And, of course, they're just a physical football team.
Yeah, I think they blitz third most in the league, almost 33%. How nice to have a veteran guy like Jared, because it just seems like Jared is playing at an MVP level, and he's just on top of it pre-snap and gets you guys in the right position to be successful. How valuable has he been to you guys up front?
What Jared says, it goes. It doesn't matter what we think, what he sees goes, because he always sees something we don't. He's our shot caller. And we know he knows where that pressure's coming from. He knows when he's hot. He knows when he needs to get the ball out. And then, again, I think he trusts us up front. So I think that helps a lot with him being able to stand in there. And you see some of the throws he makes. He stands there and takes a hit. And to see that, I think that makes offensive linemen respect their quarterback a lot when they'll stand in there and take a hit like that.
Now, I know you got an offensive meeting coming up real quick. Let's have a little fun here with the offensive line room. A little insight from the rookie into the offensive line room. Who's the strongest guy in that room?
Oh, man. Strongest guy in the room. I'm probably going to have to say Christian. Christian's pretty strong.
Who's the most athletic? I think we all maybe know this one, but I'm curious to your perspective.
Panay. Out in space, I've never seen somebody move like that, especially
Isn't
that
it
size.
Amazing?
Yeah, it's impressive.
Who's the funniest guy in that room?
Graham. 100%.
Best hair?
Me.
There you go. Yeah, that was easy. Who would you not want to date your daughter in that room?
Christian.
We'll just leave that one there. All right, how much are you looking forward to those on Monday Night Football, a national stage? The Bucs are 5-1. It's the blackout. I mean, what is it like playing at Ford Field, and how much are you excited for that opportunity to play a really good football team on a national stage Monday night?
Ford Field's been electric. Every time we played there, it's been awesome. That atmosphere is amazing. So, but coming out in these uniforms, got to play good in them. So that's kind of the thing with me. If you're going to look good, you got to play good. So I'm looking forward to playing a really good team on prime time Monday Night Football. It's going to be exciting.
All right, go get them. Have fun.
Appreciate it.
Welcome back to the Twentyman Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft. I am very happy to welcome in Scott Smith. He does a great job with the Buccaneers, the senior writer and editor there. Scott, thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Great to do it again. It's like every year now at this point.
You know, I was just going to say, these are two teams that are very familiar with each other now, having this is going to be the fourth matchup in the last 3 years. And, you know, when Scott, I was looking at the statistics. I tweet out every week kind of the rankings comparison between the two teams. And I can't remember a time where I was like, wow, this is such two teams that are evenly matched, really offensively, defensively. When that's the case, what's the biggest difference going to be come Monday to deciding who wins or loses this game, in your opinion?
Well, I'm going to sound extremely uncreative when I say this, but turnovers definitely make a difference. These two teams have combined to turn the ball over just 5 times in 12 combined games. So, and that's the one game where we did turn the ball over, we lost. And the other 5 games, we didn't turn the ball over once. And it's Baker Mayfield is doing such a good job protecting the football, keeping the ball out of harm's way, not having a lot of turnover-worthy throws, especially since early in the season. So if either team breaks through in that regard, then maybe Aidan Hutchinson goes crazy against us again like he did last week and gets a strip sack or something. I mean, last year, that could really turn the game, because you're right, these are 2 evenly matched teams that can go toe-to-toe on the scoreboard, and this could be, like a lot of our games have been, a matter of which offense has the ball last.
Now, we certainly, as Detroit Lions fans, don't want Baker Mayfield to have the ball last, given what's happened this year with him. And, Scott, when you look back to the start of 2003, Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield, number 1 and number 2 in touchdown passes, touchdown yards. You look at this year, Jared's number 1 in touchdowns, number 2 in passer rating. Baker's, I think, 3rd in touchdowns. They're both having terrific MVP caliber seasons. How great of a matchup is this, just between the 2 quarterbacks? Obviously, they're not on the field together, but it's the most important position in football in determining wins and losses, how well your quarterback plays. These are 2 quarterbacks that are playing really, really well. How fun of a matchup is this going to be Monday night between those 2 guys specifically?
It's a lot of fun because, like you said, most teams are not going to go very far unless they have a very good quarterback, right? And both of these teams got their quarterbacks in kind of their franchise type quarterbacks in not the usual way. You know, a lot of people thought, I'm sure that wasn't the case on your team's side, but a lot of people thought Goff was just a throw in that Matt Stafford trade. Baker Mayfield had to bounce around and, had the unsatisfying year in Carolina. When we signed him, it was like a 1-year deal. Any team could have had him, 1-year deal, not that much. And now both of those guys are performing like 2 of the best and certainly 2 of the most productive quarterbacks in the NFL. So to put them both on the same stage, 2 former first overall picks who kind of had to find a new home before really hitting their stride, it's a fantastic story. And yeah, how the 2 of those guys played is going to be what this game comes down to.
Injuries are obviously going to be a big component of this game heading in. You guys are banged up offensively. Wide receiver and Buka and Godwin, don't know if they'll play. Bucky Irving probably not going to play. You do get Mike Evans back at practice this week. We'll have to see how that goes, but that's obviously huge. Detroit is decimated at the cornerback position. So, and in the secondary, Brian Branch is going to have to serve that suspension, one of their best defensive players. So, I just update midweek where you guys are at injury-wise and maybe some concerns or maybe some good news on your end.
Yeah, there's a little bit of both. We haven't had an official injury report come out yet, but we did have practice today and Coach Bowles' media session afterwards. And Mike Evans and our 2 corners that missed the last games, Alim McNeill and Benjamin Morrison, are all practiced today. Mike was a little bit limited, but the corners were full go. And even I don't think they have fully ruled out the possibility of Emeka Egbuka coming back yet. It's a long shot probably, but Coach did say at the beginning of the week that he does not expect to see Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin out there on the practice field. So if they're not practicing, they're not going to play. So we don't expect to get those 2 guys back, but Mike Evans has a shot. He's not a sure thing yet. He was limited today, and we have to see how it goes this week. But that would be obviously a big boost us to get him back.
If not, it's really going to come down, in my opinion, I think a big matchup is going to be the depth the Lions have in the secondary and the depth that, Tampa Bay has, at the wide receiver position. Maybe just give Lions fans a little bit of a scouting report on that depth at wide receiver that's really stepped up in the last few weeks and allowed Tampa Bay to continue rolling even with some of the injuries that they've dealt with.
Yeah, when Emeka went down before the start of the second half, we were down our top 4 receivers: Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, who's on injured reserve right now, and then Emeka Egbuka. And that Baker Mayfield was able to continue moving the ball. I mean, we're still ranked, I think, 6th or 8th in passing yards. He's still moving the ball because some of these guys have really stepped up. And the names you need to be familiar with, you probably have heard. Your fans have probably heard of Sterling Shepard. He had a pretty nice long career with the Giants, but he's been rejuvenated since coming here and hooking back up with his college teammate Baker Mayfield. And those 2 have a really good connection. Shepard tends to step up and make a couple big plays in big moments, like he did on our final touchdown field goal game clinching drive against the 49ers. And then you got the 2 young guys, Cam Johnson and Tez Johnson. Cam Johnson had really only been returning kicks and punts for us before. He didn't have a catch in his NFL career before this past week, but he's a guy that a lot of people don't know anything about. He's the first player in the history of the NFL to come from Barton College in North Carolina. And he's been a hit ever since he's got here. People want to say he's small. He's not small. He's short for an NFL receiver, but he's really rocked up, and he doesn't really look that small out there in the field, and he's tough. And he was really a surprise in this last game, making plays over the middle of the field, kind of filling the kind of role that Mike Evans would have for you in the crunch time at the end of that game. And then Tez Johnson was a guy we were really excited to get, felt he was a steal in the 7th round, had a really productive career in Oregon, and it's just an all-around good receiver, but he is really small. When somebody mentioned at the podium that asked a question saying 150 pounds, the coach was like, "You're being generous by calling him 150 pounds. This is a little guy," and that's why he was available in the 7th round. But he's fast, and he's really got his game is really polished for a rookie. In this last game, on his 45-yard touchdown, he was supposed to run a route across the field, like a deep over maybe, but he could see that if he did that, he would be running right to where the safety was stationed, and that the safety hadn't really gotten a lot of depth. So he, on the fly, adjusted that to a seam route and could see it was working and threw up his hand, and Baker saw him. And Baker says for a rookie to have the wherewithal to make that adjustment in the middle of a route is something you don't normally see. So a lot of these guys are going to have probably some pretty interesting careers, but they're just getting started.
Yeah, they're just getting started, but they're going to play big roles Monday, as will the depth in Detroit's secondary, and that'll be, obviously a key matchup to watch. All right, last one for you, Scott. In your opinion, what's the biggest matchup? What does Tampa Bay have to do to come to Detroit, escape with a win, and improve to 6-1, and really be in control of their destiny in the NFC?
Oh man, there's so many good ones. I mean, wow. I should have been ready for this question. The obvious one would be Aidan Hutchinson against either of our tackles, because Aidan Hutchinson against Tristan Wirfs would be two of the best players in the NFL going at it. It looked to me on Next Gen like he rushes from both sides, right?
Yeah, he
kind
does.
of equally. So that means he's also going to be rushing against Charlie Heck. Last year when we played y'all, we were playing with a backup right tackle because Luke Gedeke was out, and that's the case again this year. So Charlie Heck's been playing good, don't get me wrong, but you're on your backup now. And then Aidan Hutchinson really ate our backup alive last year, 4.5 sacks. So that's a good one. I think the Detroit Lions offense is so good at staying balanced, and with those two running backs there, you can have a fresh one in the game at all times. They both can make big plays. You run the ball so well in the red zone, which has been a bit of a problem for us. If you want to look at an advantage, look at your red zone offensive numbers against our red zone defense numbers, and that's a good that's a good area for the Lions. So that would be big. So our run defense, on the other hand, has been very good, and it did a really good job this past week of limiting the yards after the catch by Christian McCaffrey. So if we can do that again against those two guys, that would be big.
Just a note for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans here. Hutch is going for a 5th straight game with a sack and a 4th straight game with a forced fumble. So he's been playing at elite level, and his ears probably perk up a little bit when he hears backup tackle.
Yeah, and I was looking. Didn't he have 7.5 sacks in just 5 games last year?
He did.
So if you add them together in his last 11 games, he has 13.5 sacks.
He does.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and Scott, I think he's playing better than he was at that point last year. I mean, he feels good, he looks good, and he's making an impact. And look, Detroit's going to need those guys because we've talked about the injuries in the secondary. Well, how do you counter that? You have your front 7 guys and your defensive line step up for those guys, and so that'll be what Detroit's looking for. But it should be a great matchup. I'm excited for this one. Monday Night Football at Ford Field. It's going to be crazy, and you've got a really good team coming in that's playing some really good football. I'm sure you've enjoyed covering them over the first 6 games. They've looked great. I will be sure to stop by and say hello. Safe travels up, and I can't wait for Monday.
All right, thanks. Great talking to you again.